Hello, everyone. Welcome to HR Bytes, a podcast and video series to bring you stories of HR professionals who bring a think globally and act locally digital HR agenda to their work. Everyday people who are driving digital transformations in their organizations, data-driven and future-fit digital HR leaders. This is your host, Jay Polaki, and today's guest is Anish Aravind. Anish is an HR professional turned entrepreneur, co-founder and principal consultant at SS Consulting and Marketing Analysis Research Solutions, MARS, in India. Anish has over 2 decades of experience in people functions across industries in India, and he has been placed by SHRM India in the expert cohort of the India HR Influencer Report in 2019. More recently, ETHR World placed him in the list of top 20 HR influencers on social media. Welcome to HR Bytes, Anish. How are you today?
Thank you, Jay. Thank you. And it's a very special honor for me. And thank you for that. I'm doing great. Looking forward to our conversation. Thank you.
Wonderful. So, you know, Anish, that HR leaders have been front and center during the past 9 months because of the pandemic. And, you know, there has been a massive shift in remote work due to this. What have you seen with AI and automation and workforce wellness initiatives in your line of work?
Okay. In terms of AI and automation, I think it's pandemic has kind of increased the acceptance of some of these. I mean, they were around for a while now. If I look at India, let's say, because we're pretty big in the IT software development side. So all these technologies were here, and the people got to know about it. But there were a lot of naysayers around, and there were fears going around. They were possible about security on the cloud and whole host of stuff kind of prevented HR tech from its, if I can use that word, proliferation. Or so the pandemic, I would say, the first maybe 3 months or so, they were much more ready to kind of taking on some of these things. They're listening to some of these service providers. And I think 10 months down the line, we have seen from the results of some of those service providers and IT companies, they're all doing very well. So those are very good results for digital transformation, if I can use that word, which includes all those sub-terms that you mentioned, AI, and specifically HR tech. I've seen it going very, I mean, it went down in the first 3 months, and then kind of it sprang up because of all the internet. Internet was, I mean, it became more comfortable to people. Mm-hmm. So I think that this is from an India perspective, and I'm located at one of the tier 2 centers in the country. So not in the metro. So, but we have very good connectivity of sorts here, and with one of the high tele-density and internet penetration within the state. So that also helped the local companies.
Definitely, right? Digital India is kind of the agenda on the government's radar, as well as, you know, I when I come to India, I see a lot of that happening. I see a lot of digital forward companies who are, you know, investing in the digital infrastructure for their organizations. And so I think because of this pandemic, that has definitely fast-tracked, but also has been extremely helpful for folks who've been asked to work from home and kind of work remotely. So definitely a blessing in disguise. I think that digital first agenda has really helped, I think.
Yes.
So when we spoke earlier, you had mentioned how you are an avid birder, and you also do a little bit of umpiring for your local cricket association. So tell us a little bit about how your social capital, you know, outside of work within organizations, how has that played in generating and scaling innovation in HR functions at companies that you work with?
Yeah, so these connections that some of these hobbies and interests has given me has so what these connections do is, if you, let's call them social connections, and if you look at um, it kind of helps the two-way sharing of kind of a depth-based information. Okay,
Uh-huh.
it can be like links and videos and the other learning material. So these kind of that helped visualize the the future state of what you want to kind of bring in and inside the organization which where I'm setting up or advising. So and you would end up knowing somebody who knows the CXOs there or even the employees there. So they would reach out through the network and find out that okay, I have a connection with this guy, and that is where really birding helps, because birding being a kind of a, I mean, let's say common interest. So it brings in people from diverse fields. There can be people who are policemen. So you'll end up, say, while you're driving down, you'll find that the traffic policeman comes over and asks the windows to be rolled down and says, "You are the one whom you've seen in that Facebook post, and so where are you Are you coming from?" So it happens. So that kind of a, and then that gentleman will connect us to somebody else, and all these impact the ability to share information and increases credibility within the those organizations. And because Kerala, it's a very small state if you look at, and very well networked. So in terms of the communication thing, so people can find each other out on the internet very quickly. So that kind of helped, and LinkedIn and all then helped. So they would follow what I'm reading or I'm sharing. So that also increases some of these things. So I would say um, some of the global aspects that I would otherwise would have taken longer time for me to explain would kind of sail through easily with some of these things. So
Absolutely. And,
thanks.
technology is the great connector. Like you and I met over Twitter, right? 9 years
Yeah,
ago at the
that's right.
SHRM
Yeah,
conference in Georgia, in
and
Atlanta.
yes,
So,
Atlanta. I
so
remember. Yeah,
definitely a great connector. And especially in these days, and definitely is helping us put the H back in HR, I think, with the
yeah,
increase in automation and the increase in technology adoption within our HR function. We had a lot of naysayers in the early days when we were trying to put a digital first agenda in
yeah.
place in organizations. But now I think everyone knows it's more a necessity, not something that's just good to have, but it's more a necessity, and definitely is helping us manage and keep those connections alive. Definitely.
You would remember in Atlanta, there was SHRM had kept a hive, HR beehive kind of a thing
Yes.
to get. There were people dressed in bees costumes moving around. So and people
Yes.
who were going into those conference rooms, they were they had to pass through the hive, and they would volunteers. We are all volunteers from the bloggers team who would go and ask people, okay, do you have a Twitter account? Do you have a LinkedIn account? So we would help people get onto that. So it was India, of course, it took slightly longer for us to reach there, but because I got exposed to that thing there in 2012, I knew that this was going to come to India as well very soon. So it was, and there were some early movers in India too whom I was connected with. So that really helped, and those
Absolutely,
were
absolutely. Those were the days, right? We don't know if we'll ever go back to those conference days. I don't think we'll ever be in a bee costume again at
yes
a conference.
at the con.
So, Anish, you work with a lot of professionals at different stages of their careers, and you are a mentor to a lot of them. What's one piece of advice you have for HR professionals who are looking to adopt or learn new technology in today's times?
Okay. I would say if they can look at, they need to create a WIFM or what's in it for me. Okay, for that is the first step towards learning anything. The moment that WIFM is known, or then that becomes, I would say, cemented as a purpose for which you can. So then you can learn it, and then the next step would be the tools. My suggestion for tool would be design thinking. I would strongly recommend that they embrace this whole concept of design thinking. What it does is the base is of course empathy, and once you get to that base of empathy, you would be able to even translate in the listener's words, right? Listener or listener ready words, kind of, if I can use that. So that means if, let's say I need to I influence a team to get onto a particular proposal on technology and then support the implementation. I would be able to position it with the help of design thinking basics to in a manner that they see a whiffim in it. Okay, so what's in it for me from their side, and that I think that's the role of HR professionals, to position it that way. That makes it easier for it to be learned quicker than and they see that they've been doing that. In some bit, it is a bit of leadership piece as well at the end of it. And once that happens, somebody else will say, okay, that HR person has been a good leader. They heralded through that space, and especially pandemic has given many opportunities for HR to come back onto the center stage in some of these areas and show that they are true catalysts for business transformation.
Absolutely. The agility of our HR department in the past 10 months has definitely been front and center, and we've been put to the test more than any other function in an organization. And I'm certain of that because it's a fact. So, we all spoke about HR in 2025 and how automation is going to be there by 2025, but 2020 actually did it for most of our departments. So, what do you think HR can do to prepare our function for an increase in remote and hybrid work now and in the future?
So HR, I believe, is in a pivotal position where we are in a role where we can reduce the fear psychosis and people. We in my over 2 decades, I've seen that whenever folks, even leaders or even people who are the stakeholders, when they are fearful of something, and pandemic, of course, is you don't really need to explain what fear is to people, like when in this who just in the lockdown and from January and March of 2020. So if HR can use technology as a catalyst to reduce fear across in these areas of any area that they touch, and fear is reduced by information. So communicate. So to design communication systems that can reduce fear and frequent enough. And one other caution would be things will go wrong. So so plan for some of those things as well, and communicate those misses as well, so that they know, okay, and that will enable the stakeholders to learn from those mistakes and understand that we're all vulnerable, and things may not go well, but we're all in it together. And so that these HR has a very critical role to kind of make all these things visible. There's a lot of and in some places you may have to encourage the key stakeholder to do the communication. It can be a CXO, because a lot of HR folks might want to step into the roles themselves because they might know some of these things easily, but you have to kind of hold your horse at the point of time and then make sure that the relevant role player gets to do those communications.
And empower them to take on that role and kind of communicate what they think would help
facilitate the communication. You might have to give them data. You might have to give them those reports, help them visualize it to their subordinates and teams. So that's the and this happens both external as well as internal, because externally you have to be focused on what is increasing the fear. There can be an external event that is increasing the fear in the internal stakeholder. Unless you're connected to that external event or can connect it to the context, you may not know why people are not maybe getting influenced the way you want. And so that is that would be my take on what HR can do.
Thank you. That's definitely something that resonates with me, and I'm sure it'll resonate with a lot of our audience as well. Agile HR and being data driven is key for us to kind of leap forth into the future and be the department that our CEO wants us to be. We often ask ourselves, are we doing the work that our CEO wants us to do in the HR departments? And if we constantly ask ourselves that question, I think it will definitely help us become more agile and become more a data-driven function that the organization can look up to. So that brings us to our question connection section of our podcast and video series today. Who is one person that you think that we should connect with in HR tech and that we should all know?
Okay. This 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 person named Sally Ann. I'll send you her LinkedIn profile after this thing. So Sally Ann was first introduced to me at SHRM Tech event. We were judges for HR, I think hackathon. There was a HR tech startups, the students and others who were moving in and some solutions to HR tech. It was a competition, so we were judges there. And it was this, I mean, during this year, I mean, last year, that is, I mean, the year specifically after last year. So last year that we, so why I find, so she has an interesting HR tech product. She kind of, if I would say, who enables the human abilities of our species using technology. So, like she addresses us as, okay, lovely human. So that kind of a connection she established, and she has now created a unique global community, and we kind of mentors who can. So there is a evaluation system of mentors. And all that is done by her tech platform, and so that is enabling learning. So this unique community of human skill enthusiasts, I would say. So she's I would. It's a great honor that it was through SHRM that I got to connect to her, and we are looking forward to partnering with her in some of the journeys that we do.
Absolutely, and I'll link her LinkedIn profile in the show notes as well. What's your favorite HR podcast?
Okay, let me answer this in a different way. To me, there is HR is all about understanding the business. So one of the recent podcast, the last couple of months, I would say, is the one by Reid Hoffman, Masters of Scale. So why I consider it HR type? Because it's about people who have scaled their company from different sectors. So basically CXOs or co-founders and taking us through their journey. And the one I listened to last was from the Workday co-founder, Anil Bushri. So, nobody can say it is not HR or HR tech.
Absolutely,
because
I listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
Too.
So if I had said, okay, oh, this is not an HR podcast. So if I had missed that, then I would miss the whole journey of how Workday came about and how people solve the whole. And he talks about culture building and how a lot about hiring. Why is that that the first 500 people in Workday, he was directly involved in hiring. So some of those things are the ones that I'm trying to connect the SME founders here in Kerala, so and southern part of the country. So these kind of examples and listening from the horse's mouth really helps. So that is one of the reasons. So Masters of Scale by Reid Hoffman is my take.
Wonderful. And what's your favorite LinkedIn Learning series or webinars in the recent past that relates to HR technology?
So I'm not sure about LinkedIn, but Josh Bersin's webinars and some of the articles that we link, there are some. I happen to be in one of his master classes through one of our HR tech events by People Matters twice. So and I've been following him for like about 7-8 years now on. So a lot of free resources as well in some of these, and masterclass, of course, is paid sessions. So I've not found him on LinkedIn Learning yet, but there are courses through, I think, the Bersin Academy now. And some
Yeah.
of our SHRM bloggers are also part of his
Yes.
master trainer list. So
Yes.
that would what I would recommend for HR tech enthusiasts.
Absolutely. I met Josh at the HR Tech Conference in 2019 in Vegas here, and he was just phenomenal. Of course, after we met him, we were supposed to catch up, but 2020 happened, and there we are.
Yeah.
So given the upheaval of all things work in 2020, what's one workplace trend you think is here to stay?
To me, the collaboration, online collaboration tools, that kind of it was there. It was used by people in the tech world, that is the IT company. But what pandemic has done is it has kind of pushed its way to the non-tech companies, and it they were they are more believers now in the non-tech world that online collaboration can happen online. Do not always need a coffee or water cooler kind of a situation. You can kind of replicate that um, in the online situations as well. Especially with people who have met each other and who were together for maybe 2 or 3 years on, and those are the people. In the newbies, you might take slightly longer. So to me, and audio and video uh, can be switched on and off at will. So so Zoom is my favorite. Now we are on Zoom again, and so enabling, and what Zoom does is it can give you multiple end users with the recording or the actual event or the original content that you create. You can do sound alone, you can do video, you can edit it quickly. So, and all this is increasing the collaborative capacity of such tools. And gaming as well brought something. So I would, if I would take a pick, it will be online collaboration tools. I'm really looking forward to global proliferation of simpler solutions coming in around that.
Absolutely. I'm wearing my Zoom jacket today, so that's a trend that I think
Uh-huh.
is going to stay.
Wonderful.
So, how do you give back? How do you give back to the HR community, Anish?
Okay. I happen to really enjoy doing this. I've even created a hashtag called Give and Get, hashtag Give and Get, about 2 years back. So to me, it's learning and sharing back. So whatever I get to learn, like, so I would have shared this, the podcast that I listen to. If I find a new podcast, or if the old podcast I get a new one, I'll definitely share it on Twitter and LinkedIn. So learning and sharing is one part. Creating and curating content which is again searchable. So I make it in a manner that people searching for this would be able to find it easy. So because I know people, human beings have the urge to learn, and there'll be HR people who will be searching for it, so they'll get to it. And I'm a huge fan of using the existing platforms, because HR has been around for 70, 80 years in various names and forms across the globe. So if you look at platforms like SHRM on a global scale, CIPD in the UK, and I think SHRM is more global than the other ones. And if I look at India, then there is NHRE and NIPM. These are all systems who are already there. They have a constitution there. So HR process can actually piggyback on some of those systems and then help them grow. And that's what I do. I've personally been involved in some of these things. And of late, I've got into creation of research papers as well, because whatever you, the second one will get published. So I'm a newbie to that, so not many research papers yet. But I'm excited about not just on the social media. You create it, and with peer-reviewed journals and all. So you create some of them. And the last part, last October, you use the term agile. So me and a friend have launched something called as HR as a catalyst. So So the website is hrscatalyst.com, and it's a kind of a collaboration between agile philosophy and measurable HR. So that is something which we have kind of launched online, and we want to kind of let it stay around and add content to it, so on a social thing. And so it's a kind of a framework. We have termed it as a framework to succeed in an evolving world. So there's a lot of because evolution will happen whether we like it or not. So so we kind of we want to kind of use those nuances and the depth of evolution to kind of learn and keep learning and sharing. So that's how I would, and I'm looking forward to doing more and more of that. And
Absolutely. Thank you so much for everything you do for the HR community. It does reverberate across the globe. I can tell you that because your reach is global.
Thank you.
So definitely keep doing what you're doing. So thank you so much for being a guest on my show today. And I'm sure all the insights that you've shared will resonate with many of our HR colleagues across the globe. And if our listeners would like to connect with you, what is the best way for them to reach you, Anish?
LinkedIn and Twitter, that is the best way. If they know my name, then if they do a Google search, my Twitter or LinkedIn would definitely come in the first page. And that'll be for sure. So they do not need to remember an email ID or phone number and all. They'll reach me quickly. So
I'll link your LinkedIn and Twitter profile links in the show notes as well. So thank you for tuning in, everyone. And I look forward to bringing you more global stories of everyday HR professionals doing great technology work in their organizations. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, Jay. And it was a great honor catching up, and I really enjoyed the conversation. All the best to your efforts to get these HRBytes across to the global audience.
Thank you.